Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Panda Bennett, and today we are joined by Matt, the creator of the Trinity Tarot. And so, Matt, how are you today?
Hi there. I'm very well, thank you.
I'm
And
so glad that you could be here.
thank you. I'm really honoured. I've been really excited about it. I haven't really had an opportunity to talk about my deck in this way, so.
And I absolutely love your deck. And you guys, if you haven't watched the deck walkthrough, I will link it down below. Definitely check that out. Yeah, the Trinity Tarot is amazing. And I really appreciate what you did as far as trying to make it inclusive and then neutral so that people could really bring themselves to the deck as far as being gender neutral and more of a neutral ground for religion as well. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it was, there were like very key parts to how I wanted the deck to be formed, and also very personal parts to me. I come from a very religious context originally, and also recently, it wasn't until like mid-20s that I came away from that. And I'm also queer, so I was very aware of those, and I learned Tarot, the Rider-Waite deck, and as much as I loved it and I loved the imagery, I felt like there were gaps in terms of gender equality, ethnicity, and just no representation of the LGBTQIA plus community. And there were things that I really wanted to correct, to bring into the deck. Yeah. Yeah, and at the same time, because when I had wanted to create this deck for a while, but I just had no time until the lockdown happened. In the meantime, I've been looking for other decks that maybe would be a bit more personal to me, and I wanted the deck to be accessible, but not sort of explicitly queer or explicitly, secular or anything like that. I think for me, the great gateway to tarot was I went to a workshop at a festival, and this was quite early in my journey after leaving religion. And I very much needed permission to explore some of these things, which were very taboo. And the workshop was a secular tarot workshop. And I was like, oh, permission, permission to explore. And that was 2018. And I think by having that workshop, it was accessible to me. It wasn't something to be feared. And I think tarot is so useful. And for me personally, it's been such a useful tool that I hate the idea that someone may be scared away because they have a faith or they don't have a faith, or they consider themselves spiritual or not spiritual. It is a very personal journey. So I'd want the deck to be able to be used how a person would want to use it. It was a tricky balance, because obviously I also had all my own personal things and imagery that I wanted to fit in, which I tried to reserve for other decks. There are references, like biblical references in there, but a lot less than the Rider-Waite. I'm really glad that I've sort of achieved that, and they're things that were picked up by yourself and others. It's been really thrilling to get some feedback from people.
Yeah, I mentioned that you included that note. I thought that was really nice. I thought that was really beautiful, and that, sometimes creators don't want any feedback, and that's completely everyone's prerogative. That's totally fine. When you create a deck, that's your artistic process. I totally understand that, but I thought that was really nice, and I really felt like included. And then because so I'm bi, and then I'm Black, and so and I left religion some time ago, but so just having this deck, I felt very I felt like it was a mirror. I felt reflected, I could see myself in it. And the energy from it is like new and refreshed, but it was still, I can still see the Rider-Waite Smith, so it's not like it's hard to read or anything like that, but it's just new and inclusive. And I love the energy of it. And I don't know, I just appreciate it so much. I'm just so glad. And I'm so excited.
I'm really pleased. I love that. Like it can be like a mirror to you, because that's very much how I see the tarot. And I've lost my trail of thought.
That's okay. That happens to me all the time.
It was something you said. Oh, I've forgotten.
It's okay. No, it's okay. So just tell us more about you. Tell us, like, when you're not doing tarot, just tell us about your hobbies. I want to know all about you as well.
Yeah, actually, it's just sparked what I was going to say. So my day job, very appropriate, thanks. So my day job, I'm a graphic designer and illustrator. I'm employed and I freelance as well. But I think that came into this deck creation in terms of I approached it very much with my illustrator designer hat on rather than my artist side, because I am an artist. I paint and I have very personal art. But I approached this with it being, I'm here to illustrate, I'm here to make something that works for people, I'm here to facilitate. I'm a Libra, so one of my biggest weaknesses, well, potential weaknesses, is that I'm a people pleaser. And it's been really interesting on my journey to find ways of harnessing that and making it something that's useful. And I really love the word facilitate, like to facilitate, be a facilitator, because it's a way that I can harness my desire to people please into a more healthy attitude of how can I facilitate people, and the tarot is a way that I can use art in a way that is accessible and is useful to people, rather than, you know, one of my personal paintings which a small amount of people get or enjoy, but really they're for me, whereas the deck is more for everybody, you know, with my own little touch, I guess. So yeah, I'm really glad that came out. I think it became a bit of a because I think when I first got into it, I was in a place where I'd suddenly lost all this structure, this religious structure, and also I'd lost. I think being in a religion, at least the religion that I was in, it's all about submitting yourself to a higher power. And in the process, you know, I was very much taught that your intuition, like your heart and your mind, are not to be trusted, and there's something to be suppressed, especially being queer. And I'm sure you'll understand that if you came from quite a similar background, that if you're queer, especially if you're in a religion that doesn't see eye to eye with that, you're forced into a situation where you're suppressed, and what is very natural is not acceptable. And I think leaving that and realizing that actually from now on I have to make the decisions.
It's exciting and scary, isn't it? At the same time, like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you sat down with me today. I wish I could hug you, because I remember being in that place. I remember it's almost like falling, like and it's like, if I let go of this, like, I don't want to let go of this, but it doesn't accept me, and it tells me that I'm not, like, I should be shameful and that this isn't right, but like, this is who I am at my core, you know what I mean? I can't just let it go. So I have to let this structure that I've grown up with, and that I've, you know, like, was just given to me as like, this is the end all be all, this is how it is. And so, like, letting go of that was like falling. But yeah, so I get that.
It's very much a tower moment. Like, I feel like those 3 years of my life was just a constant tower moment. And like, I think that's why I'm really drawn to those themes in the tarot, like the Hierophant and the High Priestess and the Tower and death. And I think they're themes that are so important. I think the key thing in this life is accepting that we don't know everything, and we never will know everything. And it's all about accepting that, and life being a pursuit of defining truth, but more a journey of refining, like living well and living lovingly. And tarot was a big like part of that. So yeah. So you say that you left religion quite a while ago.
Yeah, and I had this, I'm trying to find your tower because I wanted to talk about this too. So like, going hand in hand with that, like letting religion go and just being like, and that's, I mean, these are bigger things, but in almost everything, even like toxic relationships or whatever it is for each individual person, we will hang on to what's familiar to us rather than letting it go, because letting go is scary. Like the unknown is scary. And so we'll hang on way too long to things or people or places that no longer serve us, because going through those tower moments are really scary. And so like spiritual awakening, everyone thinks that it's just like this well put together person and they're just like glittering, and like what for me it was just like sticking my finger in a light socket for several years, just like, I mean, it was, yeah. And so
Oh,
that's just it was a wreck, like it was a hot mess. And so
yeah,
I
it's
just
true.
want people, yeah, to understand that it is like just a constant tower moment, like several years of you like figuring out really where you're at, what your center is, what you actually believe in, rebuilding yourself and these beliefs. And so yeah, but what I really like about your tower, I mean, I like the whole deck, but so your tower, like it's on fire.
Yes.
But what I like about the tower card for this, and what I think is so true, is that so like your foundation in your tower isn't broken. Okay, so your foundation isn't broken and you're going through these things, but like things are actually falling into place. And I really love that your tower card itself, like the tower isn't broken, like it's going through these things, it's on fire, but you're gonna be fine, like it's gonna be okay. And so I just really appreciate that.
I'm really glad you saw that. Like another thing that I had as well is so with the ground. So this was one of the areas where I really wanted to put a biblical reference in, but I also didn't. So I made the ground gold. This is very subtle. I made the ground of the card gold, so that the suggestion is that it could be sand. And there's the story in the Bible of like the wise and foolish man like building houses on sand or on firm foundations. And I think that's a really good point. I think the Tower card is about less of being destroyed, but more about your foundations, and how firm and how sturdy they are, and the fact that your foundations can always be shook, and sometimes they can be like swept under your feet. So another version of the tower that I'm working on for my new deck, I'm doing the tower but being uprooted, as if it's been lifted out of the ground and it's hovering, and all the roots and the rock is like, and the debris, and the tower is intact. And it's that idea of, because that's definitely what I found with that experience, is like everything that I based my life on, everything that made sense, even basic things like my morals, like what was right and wrong, everything was based on that. And when it was taken, it was like, anything's possible. Like, anything can go. And that was scary, but also really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it's exciting and scary, like at the same time. And when I love what you said when you were like, because you're like, it's kind of on me now, because I'm like, if you let go of that, you know what I mean? And you're like, okay, now I have to listen to myself and my higher power. I'm like, I'm not even a whole adult. Like I'm basically just like 3 raccoons in a trench coat. Like I don't know. Like this is really you know what I mean? But no, yeah, your tower is intact and you're gonna be okay.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think what's interesting about that as well, I think a lot of things in our society pressure us, because you just said about like, oh, I'm not even a full adult, and I totally agree. I turned 30 last year now, 2020, and it is one of those moments of like, 30, what is everyone else doing at 30? What does the media and society say you should be at 30? And there's a lot of established traditions in the communities that we live in, which sort of dictate what milestones we should be at, which are very, very restricting. And if you don't follow that, or if you do follow it and it gets taken away from you, because I've also had that, then it's looked as like a shame, like as something that you haven't achieved. But I think everything balances, like, and you finding your own journey, and I think that's even more powerful. Because I very much try to follow that rigid structure. With my religion, the rule following. I had a marriage and a divorce very young. It was all very intense. But now I have this freedom where okay, I'm 30. Yes, I'm temporarily during the lockdown living at my parents, but the journey and the things that I've learned in that process are so precious. And the wonderful thing about life is it's always rolling. There's always the next thing.
Yeah, it comes and
There's
goes in
always
cycles. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the tower moments, like sometimes they're really big, but we go through smaller tower moments, I mean, all the time. You know what I mean? I mean, it just, yeah. And also lockdown, we're not in lockdown. I mean, obviously you guys have all seen the jokes about how America's poorly handling things, but nobody no one wants to be in a lockdown. But I feel like I've seen so many people going through this deep reflection and like almost like a blooming, like a blossoming amongst all this other chaos, because they're like spending time with themselves and they're doing all these amazing art projects. I've seen so many decks that have come from lockdown. So I think that's really beautiful. That's a really beautiful use of the, you know, the mandatory slowdown.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a very tricky thing as well. Like everyone's experience of lockdown has been so different. I've been very fortunate in the sense that I haven't lost my income, whereas a lot of people over here, well, everywhere have. And I've been very fortunate to be in a situation where I have been able to use it to my best ability and produce something new. And I'm really thankful for that, because I don't know if this deck would have ever happened otherwise. But yeah, it did start off though, sort of the only way to kickstart it and actually commit to it was to say to myself, I'm not actually going to publish this. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want that pressure. It was like, I'm just going to make this for me. I'll print, 1 or 2 copies of it for myself. And then by the time sort of October came and it was done and Christmas was coming up, and I thought, you know what? Just do it. Just about do it. And the feedback has been really, really interesting. Like, as you mentioned, like feedback is very important to me. I'm not precious about my work. I want it to work. I want to work hard for people. And it's been really interesting to see like how people have used them and the feedback that they've had. I did a post today about the Hanged Man, because I had some feedback about Hanged Man being, because I depicted it as a reversed cross. And I tried to make it not look satanic in terms of it was done quite divinely, had sun rays.
Yeah.
But this person was concerned. They were happy with the deck. They did buy the deck and they're very happy with it. And I certainly didn't want anything to be against someone's religion or to be offensive. And that's been really fun and a good challenge for me to sort of rework it. And actually, I'm a lot happier with how it's come out now. So I'm really looking forward to the next edition being more refined, and hopefully have like an extra layer of depth that the first one hasn't, which has been brought by other people. Yeah, because I think I did it in quite isolation. I did it in isolation, really. Well, yeah. I was in literal isolation, but also like I wasn't really in a community at that point either of other people who are interested in tarot. So it's just me with my wider deck and my laptop. And it's only really been after launching it that I've been able to see like what everyone else is doing, and it's been really like opening and inspiring.
Well, in your journey, I mean, it felt like my journey. I could see my journey in it, and so I know other people are going to be able to see that as well. So even if you created it in isolation, we all go through those things where we have to take, whether it happens by choice or you run into something sometimes that forces you to really look at the things and recalibrate, what you believe in, where you're going, what really makes you happy, those type of things. But when I was looking at that and I was like reading about the deck and then I was using the deck and I was just like, yeah, I feel that. Like, I feel that energy. Everyone's going to, their situation and their tower moments are going to be different, but you can definitely, it's relatable.
Oh, I'm so glad. So glad to hear that.
And so, okay, I've been trying not to jump on this since the moment that you came on here, but I know that you're working on some other things, and I've been creeping on those because they look really great. So what else do you have going?
So I have kind of got 2 decks on the run, 2 more decks on the run. Overworking myself, but my main focus at the moment is what I think is going to be called the Transient light deck, and this is very different to the Trinity Tarot. Trinity Tarot is very it's about clarity. It's very it's minimalist, but it's symbol rich, but
This
this new
deck
deck,
feels very earthy.
yes, it's going to be earthy, hopefully a bit more textured, and I'm going to give myself more artistic license to be personal with it, because I think what's really magical, although I try to make Trinity Tarot very accessible, when you do express something that's personal or vulnerable and someone else connects to it, like it's like another level of magic. so,
Yeah.
so I feel like this deck is going to be my sort of a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more personal. People will either connect with it even more, or they're just going to be like, yeah, I like the look. I don't know. But I'm allowing myself to do that. And that's really, really fun. And it started, I was just business card size. I was doing them really tiny, just ink drawings. And it's very limited palette again. Just like a bluey inky color and white ink on like a brown, like natural surface. So that's one. The second one, which I have no time scale on and is just even more personal than that, that's going to be an oracle deck, and that's going to be circular. But that's I'm not really pushing that too much at the moment, because I don't know if that's going to take 2-3 years or something. But they're the main things that I'm working on at the moment. And yeah, it's been exciting to get some good feedback on what I've done so far on those.
So do you want to speak at all about how, like, your journey with tarot and being able to create these things that where, like, is you're healing and just, yeah, you're learning, how do you feel like it's helped you to, like, put these images into the world or to do this studying, anything like that?
Yeah, sure. I think there's some like core messages in the deck, which are lessons like lessons that I've learned through these experiences, and one of them is discovering like the divinity. Well, I choose the word you like, the divinity or the magic within yourself, which is something that I've been very obsessed with. On my journey out of religion, I discovered the Holy Spirit. So the religion I grew up in didn't believe in possession of the Holy Spirit, and then I, for short term, believed that you should, and so I moved into a different area of Christianity. I received the Holy Spirit, and then I moved away from that totally. And I think what actually happened mentally when I received the Holy Spirit was I started listening to my own voice. I started listening to my own intuition, and the permission. It comes back to having that permission. The permission that was given to me was, it's from God. And then a few months after that, I realized, no, this isn't. This is just me listening to my gut, which is built on my experiences and the experiences of others that I've listened to. And so I think that's something that I want people to take away from the deck is this is about you tapping into your, into the strengths that are inside you, both your talents and your intuition and your gut. And yeah, I think that's really, really important. And I didn't want to be too prescriptive on how people use the deck. Right. I've had a few people come back asking, like, oh, it'd be great to have a more expounded guidebook, which I am working on, but carefully, because I want, although I do want them to be aligned slightly to traditional translation, so that people can flow with them quite easily, and if they've got a basic knowledge of tarot, they can use them easily. But I want to encourage people to find their own practice and their own rituals. People have also asked me, like, what spreads should I use with this deck? And I'm like, what spread works for you? Again, I am trying to work on some spreads for it, but again, I want to do that very carefully. I've had a few people sort of say, like, because of the square shape, how does it work with reversed and upright cards? And I'm quite keen. A good friend of mine, a tarot reader, she showed me this spread that she created herself recently, and it was also and she was also talking about the elements, the 4 elements, and how they correlate the cards. And I think it'd be quite interesting to create a spread where, like, whichever way it's facing, north, east, south, west, it would correlate with those elements and with that aspect of yourself, your mind, your heart, your spirit, and such. So yeah, I think that's at the core of it. I think that's what I want people to sort of take away. It's really important, I think.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I'm so glad. I've been babbling. Let me look here. I had some questions and I wanted, so let me make sure that, okay. And so do you market your decks as for like beginners or people that already have a knowledge of reading? What do you feel for that? Obviously they're inclusive. I think that anybody can use them or feel like they see themselves in the deck for sure.
I think I had in mind, well, as I said, I had in mind everybody, but I think it maybe works more for people who have some basic knowledge. And if someone was using it as their first ever deck, I would very much recommend that they do it. And there's a lot of online guides for the Rider-Waite, and I would definitely suggest that they refer to those a lot. But I think it's totally suitable for like a total beginner if they take that route. So yeah, I think in my head I was imagining I suppose someone who was in a similar stage to me at that point, where I was only a couple of years in, had a basic knowledge, but was also wanting to really establish myself and learn it on a deeper level. Because going card by card to design them, you learn an awful lot. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I'd aim it for.
Well, that's exciting. And so how do you feel like as a person? This is just has nothing to do with the deck, but just for me, because I know that I went through this, but like, how are you feeling like having left religion and building these new beliefs and your core? And do you feel magical? You look magical.
Yeah, I feel yeah, wonderful. I think a big part of it is accepting transience, and accepting imperfection, and accepting death. I know that sounds really dramatic and big, but it is, especially when religion or the religion that you're in, there's a focus on it being like redeeming the soul, like the idea of either everlasting life or the idea of purifying yourself. For me, my religion was very based on being holy and being good. So it was about, following the rules, and in a future date, you would be cleansed, and that you'd be judged and you'd be cleansed. And I think putting that aside, it's been really magical to find that that's an ongoing journey that you have in your life, which is never going to be complete. And I just feel very liberated, really, really liberated and free. I've never been happier. I think there's like, I think in a way there's like an internal joy that like because obviously life like sends you shit all the time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I think the difference now, like my foundations are stronger, and even when I'm down or like unproductive or like something bad has happened, there's still like this kind of joy, and joy is different to happiness. Like happiness is like, whereas joy is that deep set, it's okay, and like, I'm strong in myself even if I feel battered and wounded. Having that joy is like glorious. I absolutely love it.
That's so beautiful. I'm always like trying to like pull people like away from religion, but I always say like whatever, whether it's whatever religion or church or group, whatever brings you comfort and helps strengthen you, I support that. My sister is a very devout Christian, and she's very into the structured church. And I love her, and that helps her with her daily life and to get through obstacles, and that's wonderful. I jokingly call her Sister Christian, but I am always trying to like pull people and be like, there's so much inside of you, and like it's just, you're gonna be okay, and you have this inner light. I read a book once that when I was going through all that just talked about the concept of, instead of like taking the concept of God and applying it like to ourselves, that we're all gods and goddesses, and we have this, this beauty and magic and strength like within us, and like trusting yourself rather than like looking for it somewhere else, that kind of thing. But that was really profound for me. And
yeah, no, so that's really powerful for me, because like, as I said, like the sort of journey out of that section of religion that I was in, I sort of went through the Holy Spirit, and for me, which is one of the reasons the deck is called Trinity Tarot, because I sort of I went from not believing in the Trinity to believing in the Trinity to realizing that the Trinity is a lot wider thing beyond Christianity. And I think the idea of this Trinity, it's about the manifestation of God. So it's the idea that you have like this source, this like creation, and then that God or divinity meets human, which is like Jesus, and then it expands out throughout the universe, and that's like the Holy Spirit being within people. And I just love that idea. And so in a way, calling it Trinity Tarot was a bit of like a reclaim, if that makes sense. And I live for a reclaim. I love reclaims.
Oh yes, me too.
I love to reclaim things. And to me, like reclaiming that word this is about manifesting that light that's within you. And it's also a light that connects you with everyone. Because again, the concept of Trinity it's about oneness and unity, but that being made of many.
Yeah.
Is really powerful. And I think even from a Christian point of view, even if I was to open a Bible, I feel like the teaching of a God is that it's actually about a multitude being united and one. And like we're living in a crazy world, right? You know, there's been Brexit, and everything that's been going over in the States, and like there's so many divisions. And this is nothing new. This has always been in human history, but I think unity is such a key thing, and appreciating that we're all human, and connecting on that, because we can connect. And it's so nice to like make something which I feel other people can hopefully connect to in their own way. So yeah, oh, I love it. I love that idea. I love that idea.
Okay, so before we leave, do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. I will definitely put all of Matt's information down below so that you can follow the creation of his new deck, hopefully his Oracle deck, and just see what he's got going on. If you want a copy of your own Trinity Tarot, I will put the links all down below. So definitely check those out. And thank you so much for sitting down with me today. This was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.